Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. We're super thrilled to have amazing guests and also to be co-hosting today, which is a rare occasion for Julia and I. So, welcome, Hila and Michael from the New Earth Network, which is a movement that connects families, supports communities, and facilitates co-creation of the most beautiful present of our heart's desire, which is just seeing this world come into the beautiful heaven that we all are yearning for from the soulful place. So I've had the opportunity of having a couple really soulful conversations with both of you, and I'm just so thrilled to be connecting with you. Your visions of a world that is connected through community education and gatherings in person that connects the land and really gets to the heart of what it means to be human is just really inspiring. So I know we're both really excited to have you here. So just like to invite you both to introduce yourselves to our audience and to share more about this passion that drives you.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank you,
you so much.
Nathaniel and Julia, for having us. We're super excited to be here. I'm Michael Fraser, and you know, bringing a child into this world, bringing our children into this world, you start to see, what's available and what you'd like to offer to your family, and that really started a cascade effect for me, to be involved in paving a pathway forward where there's more connection. Because, I mean, I had connection growing up, but I think that as an adult, I recognized that I needed more. And um, and so I got involved with Hila in starting alternative schooling education movements so that there could be something that emerges that's closer to coming together as a village in the
Mm,
way that I see as possible.
yeah,
Hmm.
so important, so important.
That was my inspiration to get started in this path.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I mean, obviously, Gila, we want to hear your perspective too. And I'd love to hear, I know we'd both like to hear a little bit more of your backstory of what brought you together as well.
I was just about to speak to that. So obviously, many of us on this planet, yourselves included, we had our life journey, our heart journey that brought us to this moment today. And for Michael and I, 2020 was a turning point in terms of re-examining our own private lives and our children's education. In 2020, Michael's son just started kindergarten and my
Mm,
son just finished high school.
wow.
So we found ourselves protesting outside the Vancouver School Board when we received a letter. I'll never forget the date. It was May 21st, 2021. And the bottom line of the letter said that children 12 and up can get an injection without parental consent. And that was yet again another red flag, which I had a few already in previous
Mm,
years, of how the government is taking control over our children.
Mhm.
And, with everything that happened in 2020, we decided that we can't sit still and allow that to happen. We want to communicate with the school board
mm,
and share our concerns and share and ask some questions. We came from a very curious point of view. We weren't aggressive or we did have like the intention of understanding, why are you doing this? We are the
Mhm.
parents.
Mhm.
The children are our own children. So it was a very interesting dynamic, and it took a while with terms of first gathering outside the Vancouver School Board, trying to have them respond to us, trying to get some meetings going. Nothing really happened until we really persisted. And then there was a very interesting meeting outside the building, which didn't really promise us anything. And we realized that we're on our own. This is it. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And if we
Hmm.
really want to raise our children in the way that we believe in, that we need to take some actions. And so we decided to stop trying to persuade the system or have them listen to us and just follow our own guidance and start to build what it is that we envision and we want to see. And we've already started that in some ways in our lives. We had some supportive communities, we had some people that were in alignment with our values. And so, yet again, we needed to reinvent ourselves in our community. And thanks to Michael and his brilliant mind, I remember that so we did get to present in a Vancouver School Board meeting, and it was a wonderful 5 minutes of expressing ourselves, and to no avail. They never got back to us.
Hmm.
And so Michael and I were sitting, okay, we have to do something. That's it. And he says to me, well, Hila, you're already running a learning pod, and we've known about learning pods. How about we start teaching parents, families, community how to run their own learning pods in
Hmm.
the same way that you're doing? And that's
And
how.
that's how our course emerged, and it gave us the inspiration to be able to remember that we are the ones that originally created the system ultimately, like
Hmm.
we are the ones um that the school board is actually in fact trying to follow, but we're not acting in our own best interest, and so they're confused. And I mean, if the majority of people were doing what we are advocating for, that would have to change. The whole thing would have to change because they'd have to serve the people the way that people want to be served. And so, there's a lot of confusion in our world around what direction we're going in. And so, our confidence in establishing a pathway forward is to be able to give people a more embodied and empowered approach of what that might look like. Rather than
Hmm.
begging for someone to give permission, we give ourselves permission to be able to act in the best way we see fit.
Hmm.
Mm.
So important.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I really see the two of you stepping up as leaders in your community. And what's so nice is, you were just taking an authentic action as parents and really, out of the concern for your children, but also like just wanting what's best for them and knowing that that was no longer in alignment with, the school that they were attending and so forth. It's like you took action, and it takes courage sometimes. It can be uncomfortable to step up and speak out, and but you obviously care enough to do that. And not just that, like you care enough to help other parents show how to do that as well. And what's really interesting is it's not just about you and your children. Like you're taking it one step further by wanting to show other families how they can do this too. And to me, that's really inspiring, because I know it's such strange times right now, especially in our education systems. And the traditional education model is no longer fitting for many families, and they're wanting to pull their children out of these conventional systems. But that's scary to them because they don't know what that looks like, or how they would even do that. There's so many families who are like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I'm working, and I'm not a teacher, or like I don't know how to homeschool. And so what's really interesting about the model that you guys are pursuing is like you're wanting to show families that it's possible for them to learn these skills, to do that, and be, not just to teach, but also to be a model, be an example for their children. Because I think that's what's most inspiring, is like the embodiment piece that you spoke of, Michael. Like that's why we came here as parents, to show them that there is another way, and it's by coming together, not by doing it alone.
Hmm.
So beautifully said, Julia. And you really tapped into some of the things that we've anticipated that parents and families would encounter, all those points within us of why we can't do something. And so we were thinking, okay, that's one way of viewing it. But if we're really passionate about something, and if we care about our children, and you're bang on, it's all children. It's not just our children. I mean, my child, that was his last year, but I was thinking in the beginning, we called the gathering Protect All Children, because, we had obviously all children in mind and hearts. And so there's a way to flip it and see, well, instead of thinking, well, that can't work, well, how can it work? And so part of what we were speaking with parents and with our community at large is how we can do it together. And that's the village. That's the
Mm,
village that raises children, right? You're right. We were not meant to do anything alone.
mm.
I would love to ask the both of you. So when did you initially start, the New Earth Network, and when you first started to, come together and have these conversations and creating it, like what challenges did you first and foremost notice, and what solutions have you found so far?
Mm. Oh gosh, the first challenges Michael will speak to, but I'll just say we're even to gather people, if you can remember those times we lived in to meet.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the major challenges is breaking our own programming of what we think it needs to look like,
Mm.
and trying something that feels more aligned sometimes feels daring or like it's breaking our expectations of the ways that things should be. So, it's really easy to kind of like desire something new, but still continue with old patterns, as we know with relationships and the way that we navigate in our lives, that it's easy to have an idea of what things should be like, but then to actually step into new patterns is a whole other deal. And so
Great
I think that
answer.
that I think that's still the process that we're
Right.
in, that basically like we want to see something different, but the questions often come back to, well, but how can we make it the same as it is?
Mm,
I mean, like for example, people's exaltation of things like certifications and degrees and stuff like that. And it's like, well, but where do those things come from? And who is actually certifying or giving the degrees? And what does that actually mean to us? And what is it that we actually want out of those things is different from what we thought it was previously.
mm,
And so it's not that those things are bad or that we should be staying away from them, but we have to look at what we actually want from them. And that might be breaking the pattern of, oh, it needs to be this curriculum or that degree or this thing, when in fact, a lot of those things are going to shift whether or not you like it, whether it's the way that you want it to shift. The next 10 years is going to be different in terms of what those things look like. And what we want is for people to step into their own creatorship to be able to build a future that they want instead of having it be built for them.
Amen. What a great answer. I love that we're having this conversation right now because I know that you're going to break some people's patterns just by listening to this, because I feel like
Hmm.
people haven't perhaps even considered that, especially if they're just thinking like superficially, like, and it's not their fault. I mean, we grew up in these societies
we're
where like
conditioned.
it's normalized to do things a certain way and we don't question it. But I could tell that you both have asked these deeper questions, and that's pushing you to building what you're, creating today. And it makes me think about like when you're driving a car at nighttime and you can't see the full road ahead, but you have your headlights and it's showing you every inch in front of you, and you're just trusting that you're going to be guided to your destination. And so it just reminds me that we don't have to have all the answers before we start, and really letting go of those expectations of how it should turn out will open up space and opportunity for such beautiful, spontaneous surprises to emerge. And it always comes together better than we could ever imagine if we
Yeah.
continue to trust and do the inner work.
I love seeing it when Julia gets it all lit up. And I think education and, parenting is, this huge source of inspiration. And listening to you both, and seeing your passion as parents, and also, confronting there. I mean, it's easy to be an idealist and to not take action, like you're saying, Michael, to like have ideas. And then when it comes to the rubber meets the road, it requires that, yeah, that gut check, stepping into the discomfort, speaking your voice. Whereas, a lot of us have been, we've been through the whole 20 years of conditioned, it's really institutionalization. It's really not education if we're true to the etymology of the word. And so that I imagine is a part of the challenge of establishing a network as the parents of these children that they're seeing. Like I mean, from my perspective, our perspective, there's like so many old souls coming in, like advanced beings who are coming onto the earth. And
Yeah.
it's challenging the parents because it's challenging their paradigms and they want their best for the children. I think all conscious parents want that. And yet we have to deal with our own patterning, like you said. And so it's like this, it's this sacred partnership that we're all going together, and there is a lot of unknown answers. Like you're saying, it's going to be different. I mean, we can literally see. I don't know if it's like this out west in BC, but the college systems just falling apart here in Ontario. Like I'm sure some of them are going to go completely bankrupt. They just, cut another 30 programs last week. I think last semester was 60 programs. So they're just going to go to the bare bones essential,
Yeah.
or the whole ship is sinking. And I saw the writing on the wall for a few years now, just based on the level of consciousness in the classrooms and everything. And I
Mm.
decided I could try to be a force within it, and I tried for many years, and I just realized, like, no, I think this is just going to die, and then something new is going to emerge from it.
Yeah. I completely agree. I can see that happening on all fronts, that everybody wants to see something new, but the old paradigm is not holding itself up in the way that it used to. And so, as much as we want to see, like, it's like new schools, for example, being built in the city, new types of programs, but then the new types of programs are failing because people don't know how to execute on it,
Mm,
and the new schools are having teachers run through them like crazy because people aren't staying. There's all sorts of instability that's coming through, that we need to find our own ground clearly, right?
mm, mm.
Mm.
And that brings me to the question about community education versus like traditional views of homeschooling. Is a lot like the children stay at home and have either are following prescribed curriculum, or maybe are as extreme as doing unschooling. But you're talking about community-based education, which is I think a much more expansive paradigm shift.
Mm. Well, I
Well,
mean,
I
I
think
imagine, yeah, go for it, Hila.
well, we do live with other people. I mean, community is a given. I think
Mm,
it's the consciousness, and do we want to be mindful of who is our community? Can we keep creating and bring on more people of heart-centered, like-minded, shared vision, so we can expand our local community as parents wherever you are,
mhm,
whether it's in Vancouver, other cities, in rural places. So it's kind of going back to the roots. I feel we're combining innovation because we're not against technology per
mhm,
se. Look, we're using Zoom to connect with each other. We're not
mm,
ditching everything. And at the same time, going back to what our ancestors and the indigenous wisdom were holding for generations and generations, which was working. So it's the community, is some basic values, it's connection to nature, it's learning who we truly are as individuals. It's
mm,
definitely starting from within, and we've touched upon that a little bit. In order to become the parents for the children that are coming in now, we need to do the inner work. We need to
mm,
become conscious parents and understand who we are as human beings in order to cater for their upbringing and their own ways of keeping their voices and their innate skills and talents,
mm,
because they come with a knowing. And I think a lot of the Western mind agendas, which Nathaniel, you were alluding to when you spoke about the system and the colleges, they are not as flexible and open to seeing humans for who they truly are and adapt to that, or flow with that, so to speak.
mhm,
Whereas parents, families, when we are really hands-on with the upbringing of our children, it's an alive thing to be in
mm,
community and to learn together. Michael and I, part of the reason we put on podlocks for the adults in the room, for the parents, for just people that want to support parents, for educators that want to create the pods for the people in the village, in the community, in the city, wherever we are, then we have to start with ourselves. We
mm.
need to do that and then model that to the children. So
Mm.
there's so many things we can go into here. I'm not sure where to go. We're
Well,
bringing so many awesome ideas and pieces for the conversation. You lead us on.
yeah, no, I appreciate what you're saying. I just want to like reflect and expand on, not even expand, just reflect back what you're saying, because I think that was a really important distinction that you talked about. Like, yeah, of course, we're all in community, even like public schools. You could say, like, I know the teachers and I know the thing, but the level of consciousness, what you're talking about, is like when a bunch of individuals come together with that level of self-responsibility and sovereignty and coherence, I think is really that important word there. Coherent within themselves, coherent to the lands, and then they're coming together and coming around our all of our children together as a community. That is a totally different thing that I don't think we've seen, and I'm sure there was iterations of it in indigenous ways of knowing, but now we have this opportunity to have it in a worldwide scope, which is really interesting.
I want to add to that too, because it just like it reminds me that I feel like this is the way parenting and like raising children was always meant to be. Like if everyone could just imagine that the work is like not all on just one mom, like it's like that responsibility is huge. Like we've kind of been in that nuclear family model, and it feels so not in alignment that we know that there is another way. And if we can imagine it, then we can create it. And so what really excites me about what you guys are talking about is just thinking like if we can consciously choose people, who we want to be around and intentional community, it's like then you know that you can just take a deep breath and know that you're not doing it alone. Like your children can go run free and be with other responsible adults who you trust, and then it's like, okay, like we're doing this together, right? Whereas sometimes in school they're with a teacher who you may not know on such a personal level, and like it's a big deal when they're so young, especially because anybody who's close proximity, sorry, in their life or relationship, like it has a huge influence on their life because they're just like sponges. They're learning all the time. They're soaking up everything. And so you want to be mindful who your children are around at such a young age, because it's going to influence them in big ways, right? And we all want to raise loving children. And so it's really important to think, okay, like who is my child hanging around? And if you're noticing certain things, like know that you also have the power to choose otherwise. Like we are guiding them. They're when they're so young, it's like they perhaps can't make all decisions on their own, which is fine, but like we are there to show them and guide them, and that's a part of our role. But also knowing that like the big weight doesn't have to be on our shoulders alone, and we can raise like people think like, oh, like, yeah, everyone says takes a village to raise a family, but like people laugh at that sometimes and say, but like who's raising families in villages? Well, no, people are doing it around the world, maybe not so much in our Western society, but since you and I and we're all having this conversation, it's because we are inspired to bring it back here, or maybe bring it. I don't know if it has been here before, maybe in lower,
Well,
I don't
and
know.
like you folks said, it's like we're the ones we've been waiting for. It really is a co-creative process, and it's not just going to happen. And that's part of the pattern. I think, Michael, what you were talking about is like we have been conditioned to, through these institutional models, to expect like someone to save us, whether it's a government or a guru or something, like tell us what to do. And I struggle with that as a teacher in that system because I was always like, be creative, like think for yourself. And they're, well, just tell us what's the answers that we need to tell you. And I'm like, that's not what learning is. Anyways, so I
And
digress.
it's totally crazy because the government and these institutions are meant to be public servants. So
Mm,
you're going to somebody who you've hired to do something, asking them to tell you what to do. But
mm,
really, we need to be telling them what to do, or else they don't know what to do.
mm,
This is the part of our psyche that we're employing to be able to create what we need. And if we don't know how to direct them, then we're not going to get our needs met from them, right?
mm, mm. Great point. Great point. And I think that leads us. I know this is a whole ocean of discussion with respect to sovereignty, but I know that's a big focus of yours, Michael. And we met a lot of people in our travels to the Gulf Islands and Vancouver Island who are focused on this. And I feel like there's a whole wave of conscious parents who are questioning a lot of these deeper things. What role specifically do you feel like sovereignty and that knowledge of some of the roots of these things that have cropped up? How much does this play, and how have you found it's been helpful in kind of re-envisioning education?
I think fundamentally, if we come back to doing what's in the best interest of our children, this is the measuring stick that our lawful system uses in order to determine how to make opinions on what's to be done in society with respect to our children. And you know, if we are doing what's best for our children, then that should be the supreme guiding force. It doesn't matter what anybody else has done, has said, but at the end of the day, if our children are better off through the decisions that we're making, we should be able to walk that path. And that we should know that that is the right and lawful thing to do. You know, just recently Hila forwarded me this video, and there was this beautiful sentiment just around how our conscience, what we know is right and what is wrong in the world, the thing that tells us, uh, um, the our direction from within. This is how the divine law is spoken through us. And so long as we're following our conscience, that in fact is a higher form of right in the world um, than like, oh, you can't cross this line because I said so, for example, right? Like there is something greater that we can all sense, and when we are acting in the best interest of our families, there is something that's pure about that. And we can stand to that when we are in our integrity. And so I think that that's the most important thing, at a fundamental level, that we know that when we're doing something that is in alignment with our conscience and we're doing something that is for the best of our children, that it's in fact right in the world. And that even if someone says, well, you're wrong for doing that, well, we can all have different opinions about it. But at the end of the day, is what we are doing for the betterment of our children, or is there harm that's being created? And that's what we need to be conscious of, essentially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
love
can
that.
give you a simple example for that, which some people don't even entertain because we're so conditioned. At some point when my son was born, I decided, wait a minute, um, what I don't want to take a little young baby and put him in a daycare where someone else is attending him, where I'm the mother. I can still feed him. He needs me. There's so many things about the bonding of a young baby and a mother that needs to happen at least until 3 years of age. And so instead of honoring and really seeing that beautiful time that a mother, especially, and a father, but especially the mother, having with a young baby developing, and how essential it is to their overall well-being, it's beyond um shocking to me that we forgot that intuition as mothers, that we want to feed our children, hold them, be with them, observe them, support them, and what it does to their nervous system, to their digestive system, to their emotional, mental, physical development. This worth anything. For me, it was like, career? I can do my career before. I've done it before. I can do it after the 3 years that I want to take to be with this soul that I brought into the world first to support him. And then, what's my priority? Is it to have another car or another material thing in the world to purchase, make more money, or is it to actually support the next generation of humanity by just being with my baby for as much as he needed? And they do need us. And unfortunately, the Western society has, I mean, we can go into so many avenues here, but I don't think we have time. But I think I've distilled what I wanted to say to the importance of being with our children, especially at a young age.
Hmm. I know Julia
Oh,
has a
I had to
lot
say that.
of to say here, and it's so important. Actually, we talked a lot about this, Hila. So I invite Julia to share her
Well,
perspective.
just listening, and I absolutely agree. Everything you say resonates with me, and but I just thinking of some parents who perhaps are not as in tune with their intuitive sides, and just like I'm just thinking about parents who maybe they want to connect more with that intuition because perhaps they see maybe sending their little ones to daycare is having certain effects, but it's like, what advice could you offer parents who want to like energetically shift, or at least just kind of, I don't know, have some solutions to, I don't know, like what advice could you offer a parent who wants to be more in touch and because I mean some parents are obviously more intuitive than others, but it's like some just go with the flow of, what society tells them to do. And so, yeah, what could you offer them?
Such a good question. I must admit that at some point, not too long ago, I came to the insight that we can save everyone.
Mm,
And so we can model to people, we can educate people, we can offer them tools. And I came to be at peace with the fact that some people may still want to choose the old paradigm and the systems and go that route, and blessings to them.
Mhm.
And at the same time, if someone does reawaken to what is happening and to want to have it be done differently for their children and their family, then of course there's a lot of support out there.
mm,
And I would say follow your inner guidance, cultivate trust, try to understand natural law and how to restructure your life in such a way that you're more alive, you're energized, you're connected to your values, your educational philosophies, which part of our course speaks to that actually. Because
mm,
when we live in integrity, then everything else follows.
mm,
So when people start asking questions, answers comes. When the student is ready, teacher shows up, and it is a journey. I don't know if we can offer a formula that meets
mm,
everyone, but I do know that people that I meet and that we meet, we support them. We work with whoever is on our path. So
I
it makes me, I feel more relaxed because in the beginning I was so intense. I wanted
mm.
everybody to know that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
No.
we
Yeah.
I
can
think
do it.
I think there's a few factors. Like I think that the base one is really honoring our communities, right? So like, if you're bringing your child, say, to daycare and you want to do something that's new, I mean, it first probably starts out by really connecting with the people that you're around. So even the people that you're at the daycare with, maybe they're on the same page or a similar page or feeling stuck, or maybe they're happy with that and that's okay. But building community together is where it begins because then you can start to see who each other are and what your needs are and
Mhm.
start to reshape your life to fill those needs in a deeper way because there's a lot of people who feel like they can't do anything because those conversations aren't happening yet is what
Mm,
I'm thinking
mhm,
for in a
mm,
lot of cases. And then besides that, um yeah, I mean that's the fundamental piece is really coming together as community and allowing it to emerge. Oh, I know the other thing that I was thinking is too, like what Hila was saying, is that everybody's on their own path. And I think that there's also going to be people that have to also accept and comprehend that they are bridging between worlds, and that that's very important that we have people who are able to bridge. And
mm,
so it's not like everybody has to walk the same path.
mhm,
It's kind of like you have the unschoolers, you have the homeschoolers, you have the alternative schoolers and the community schoolers and the different paths that you can take, some more experimental than others. But then there's this between phase where you have people who are in the world of the public that are needed in order to help bridge, like you need that boat to get across the
yeah,
water, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
I love both your answers and I really appreciate the thought you put into them. I love that, you both agreed on that we cannot save everyone. And it's really important that we focus on the work that we're doing. And I think that helps to reawaken, like throughout our own inner awakenings, we help to inspire and awaken those around us. So it's really important to focus on what we can control and also realize that, like, the ripples will go, and we just have to trust that that will happen in divine timing. And when you were well, I appreciate, Michael, that you were talking about like really focusing on the community and the relationships that you're building, because, unless you open that conversation, you may not know, but perhaps somebody else is in the same boat as you, and you can relate and then expand and come up with solutions together and realize that you were not alone in the first place. And when you were speaking, Hila, I wrote down this word because, oh, I don't know if you can see it.
Values.
Values, yeah, because it made me think that a lot of us grow up not really realizing that like we are the creators of our realities, and we indeed can have all that we desire. And it's interesting because we grew up in these institutional models where, we're taught to be good employees and do what we're told. And, when we really come back to the truth of who we are, we are reminded that we can have and create what we want. The only problem is a lot of people don't know what they want, what they want for their children or their families or themselves in their own lives. They know they want to be happy. They know they want to feel good, but what does that look like? We are all each unique expressions of, life, and none of us came here to have the same mission or purpose. We are all interconnected, and we can contribute and co-create, similar purposes together, but each of us are so unique. And so I think it's really important what you said about values is like, what do you want for your family, for your children, for your life? I think if people would, take consistent time, and it doesn't need to be long, but just to reflect on that and bring that into thought and meditation every day, then they can start having more clarity. And this is why we called it Light Heart Vision too, because like having a vision for our lives, helps us have that embodiment piece of like, okay, I'm going to focus on this every day because it will manifest, eventually if I continue to focus on it. And that's really important. So did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think there's a lot, there is so much value in this conversation, and I feel like it's a very expansive one. It feels like it's going in almost every direction, right? And I think it's because it's related to children. And I feel like the heart of a child is, I mean, it's like Christ says, only through returning to the eyes of a child can you enter in the kingdom of heaven. I think it points to the essence of who we are. And I think that's why this conversation is so important, because when we are in a state of wonderment, when we are in a consciousness of recognizing that life is miraculous. I mean, we have a certain perception of children, and we've forgotten things that we knew when we were children, many of us. And some of us reawaken to that later in life if we honor our own inner journey. And, I feel like preserving that genius, preserving that miraculous, unique expression of divinity in the children, it's so important, and it so flies in the face of secularism. It's almost like an affront to secularism, right? Because it challenges all of this stuff, and it's like Alan Watts said, it's uncivilized to call out the game that society is playing. And yet we are in a time where many are calling out the game because we realize the game is not really the game we want to play anymore. I feel like we are feeling the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and we're feeling a call that she is asking us to heal our relationship with one another because it's causing injury to her children. And so I like to think of things holistically. And like you said, like you can't save everyone. Well, I do. My perspective is that we are all eternal beings, and it's hard to take a snapshot of someone in a particular circumstance right now and say like that's who they are. I think if we really respect people as their true self, like that they are an infinite eternal soul, that they're choosing this experience. It's like all the people who went ahead and followed with the mandates and stuff and were yelling at people with masks, like that's part of their experience. Same with the bad actors who were the puppeteers of the people behind the scenes. I think that was one of the ways where we went sideways as a culture, especially in Canada, was like the F Trudeau stuff everywhere. I found like we can't keep making the same mistakes and pretending we're all separate. We have to see the oneness. And if anything, all the COVID stuff, it really caused us to look at things, and it brought together people like yourselves. It served a purpose to our greater awakening, and
Yeah.
and it always points us to love, I think. And that's, to me, that's the heart of that's all, because children are like, like Luciana, if she was here, she'd be like, ah, hi, hi, she's a little she'd pull her hair back, like head back, and like do all this kind of funny because she's just such in a state of joy and love, and they're here to remind us of that. And I feel like as the guardians, as the stewards of children, it's our duty to learn from them as well, and not feel like we know better, but to really listen to their heart in this.
Mhm.
That's my
Beautifully,
soapbox
beautifully
moment.
said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Very important. Hallelujah and amen to each and every word. I also stand behind what you were saying. And what I'm taking from it is that what we're all doing now stems from a deep inner work. It's not a superficial thing.
Mm,
And some say we're in a spiritual war. So, in order to stand strong, it's a spiritual work. And
mm,
so, it's time to dive deep and do the work.
mm,
And, we know it's not always fun or easy. But for me, that's my commitment,
mm,
and it's a personal commitment,
mm,
right?
mm,
And when one experiences the joys and the moments of bliss and of gratitude and witnessing the changes as they can happen with ease and grace
mm,
because it's not about pushing. We know sometimes that what we resist persists, but if you know that you don't walk alone and you walk with trust with the divine, then change will come. And we have each one of us have a role to play.
mm.
And so I'm going to be fully best version of myself to play that role. And just like
Beautiful.
you're saying, other people have their own roles and I may not like their role, but they will reactivate other people. Their role is different than ours.
Mm,
But as long as we remember who we are and what we're here to do, I think we're on the good path
mm.
for that. So it's fascinating. We don't have answers. I always say, I'd rather say I don't know many times
Mhm,
and just keep doing my best
Mm.
because that's part of a bit of a humility as I get older and realizes that there's a lot of mystery too that we cannot know, and maybe that's part of the beauty of being a
mhm,
human in a body, a spiritual being walking on this earth this time around, right?
mm. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the key is, like you said, remembering who we are. And I feel like these little ones coming in, they do. And so it's our duty to not try to change them or control them in any way. And really they're also helping us to remember who we are. And if we can really just embrace, like you said, it's not always easy and comfortable, Hila, like, this inner work that we speak about, but it is part of the reason why we come here. And if we can embrace that discomfort and really just go in it with a full heart, open heart, and kind of see what messages it's trying to teach us, we will always come out the other side and realize it really wasn't that bad. And life always has a way of, rebalancing itself. I feel like it ebbs and flows. We didn't come here always to have like fun experience. I mean, some people are a little bit more flowing, but like a lot of us, it's up and down, and that's part of life. And I do believe though that the more we endure, the hardship and discomfort, that life will reward us, in other ways. And we realize that we did come here to feel joy as well, and compassion, and enjoy this life. And that's what the children remind us. They are such beautiful mirrors, and everything that we can appreciate and notice in them is because it also exists in us. So I think the biggest lesson I'm learning as a new mom, our daughter is only 2, but just everything that I notice in her, it's because I still have that inner child that lives inside of me as well. And she's wanting to come out more. She's wanting to play more. And so what I love about children is that they're reminding the adults that we are safe to do that as well. And the more that we can invite our inner children out more, I think the more that we can experience that joy that we speak about and realize that life doesn't need to be so serious. Haha.
True. But life does need to be so serious.
We laugh a lot around here with a two-year young little girl. I was sitting with her doing Play-Doh, and she eats a lot of bananas, and she calls herself Nana. short for Luciana. She can say her full name now, but she likes still calling herself Nana. So I was sitting, we're making Play-Doh bananas, and I looked at her, I said, "Are you a banana?" And she looked at me, she said, "I am not. I am a monkey, a little one." I was like, since when do you start talking in full articulate sentences like this? It just blew my socks off. I was like, what is going on?
Because you've told that story like 10 times a day to people you
I love it.
meet.
It's great. I've never told it on the show, so this is first time on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask more about what you guys are building with New Earth Network, and like, do you currently have pods, like local pods in person? Would you like to speak more of like what you're doing?
Well, so Hila runs a learning pod in Vancouver, but really what we're doing as a network is encouraging people to step into that embodied role. And so we hold circles where people can share like a learning pod with
Mm,
the community. We've been holding these for a number of years, but it's really just taking shape in such a way where now the community is bringing teachings and bringing knowledge and wisdom to each other.
mm,
And we need the practice as adults between one another to see that kind of variety of sharing space and different learning styles and different connection styles.
mm,
So we're modeling it to each other, and then people are connecting with one another in the community and building learning pods together, because every single learning pod is different. There's no format that is one size fits all. Our course that we have online gives people a guiding post to be able to know that it's possible, but the
mm,
truth is that we need to practice. And so we have together as adults our practice space where families are welcome, children are welcome. But really, as adults, we need to embody it. Because if you don't have the experience, how can you pass that on to your children?
mm.
So we're focused on that. And in that process, people are connecting and developing their communities together where they feel aligned.
Beautiful.
And we have our website, we offer the e-course, which is called Learning
Leaders
Pods
Yeah,
Leaders
learning pods,
Training.
leaders training. Mm.
And so that course is offered by donation. Anyone can sign in and take it.
Wonderful.
And we have a Gifts and Go account where people can give as much as they wish. We have an ebook that is called Community-Based Education Successful Strategies for Building Learning Pods.
Mm,
So it's not a big book, but it does give some outlines and suggestions and invitations for people to how to do some tangible things when they come together as a community. Another thing that Michael was speaking to is our learning pods. Once a month, we run in-person meetings for people in our community, not just families with children, anyone that wants to be part of a community that
mm.
supports families with children.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And everyone is welcome as long as, again, they're in alignment with our vision, mission, and values.
Mm,
And so those are our main things that we offer is the e-course, the ebook, and the podlocks. We are also public speakers. We went last year to a conference in Mexico, and interestingly enough, we got a message through Facebook Messenger asking us if we're still in Puerto Vallarta. It was our last night, and it was a family. And the woman said to me, Hila, we're coming to pick you up from the airport and take you for dinner before you leave. We took your course 2 weeks ago and we moved from Canada to Mexico. We started a small learning pod, and now 2 years later, we're operating a mini school outside of Puerto Vallarta on an organic farm.
wow.
And they
What?
showed us the pictures, and we had such
Amazing.
a wonderful time listening to their story. And for us,
Wow.
it's the most amazing, rewarding
Mm,
thing that we can have to see other people being so successful applying what it is that we offer in the course
mm.
and
This is
creating
so
this for their families
inspiring.
and
Yeah.
communities.
Yeah, I think what Julie's really, You can see she's lit up. I think what I love most about both of you in your partnership and the New Earth Network is how pragmatic you are. You know, it's not just a vision. It's really like, feet meet the ground. What can we do from where we're at? And I feel like that's what's going to move the needle forward.
The
And
fact that it's donation based too, like you could tell you really just want to help people. It's not, you don't have, yeah, the monetary
which
incentive.
allows some people to make significant contributions, I'm sure, when they're in positions to, right? So I feel like there's a new economy emerging that you're probably seeing with this times as well, as like people are talking about like quantum banking or vibrational bank accounts, and I feel like a lot of it's coming more from alignment and coherence than the traditional ways that we've done business as a species in the past. So
And the
very,
trust
very.
that all our needs will be met, that,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be through the avenue of the old paradigm, right?
Mhm.
So while we're taking action, so we're not staying passive, but we're also shifting our perception of the how will it happen?
Mhm.
I love what you guys were saying, and it's both going as deep as we can in the inner realm of the work that we are doing spiritually, and it also very realistic, concrete, tangible steps of how to implement this in our day-to-day life. So it's not either or, it's both.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we need both and anything in between.
Yeah. And that's where the inspired action comes as well, right? The more we can go within. And if people are wanting to get more in touch with their intuition, I would just, encourage them to just sit in stillness and just observe what comes up and notice, because the more that you can be with what is, the more that, you can also let go of what is not in alignment. And then, the inspiration will come. And it's beautiful when you can take inspired actions, because then we can build, and co-create beautiful systems together that are, in harmony and truth with how we were meant to live as a species. And why I was getting so lit up is because her story inspired me, like the fact that, that family was able to do that because of, them helping them. It makes me think about, like, if we're going through this, there's probably so many people around our globe who are, in similar situations, like wanting to make a change in their village or their community, but just not knowing the steps to take. And what's beautiful is, like we spoke about, we all came here with a different, unique gift and mission. And when we can come together, then we can help one another out. Someone may really have the intention to want to start a learning pod, but not have the skills, the leadership skills, or the, be able to speak or connect, or I don't know, facilitate. And when they can learn those skills, then all the power to them, because then they can start to create change. So it's just really beautiful, the work that you guys are doing.
Mm. I want to add that it's, you can't get it wrong. And even when we make mistakes, we understand that we can learn from our mistakes. I
Mhm.
mean, you,
Always.
you cannot be successful in what you do unless you try. And through trials and tribulations, we
Mhm.
learn. And again, it's another thing that our Western mind is not understanding. We're so conditioned to linear thinking
Mm-hmm.
and work toward goals and success, and it's not always like that in real life, and it's okay to learn to embrace that and know that everything we go through is a learning opportunity.
Mhm. Yeah, so true. There's a lot of risk, like aversion to trying, and it's funny because I feel like that stunted growth comes from the institutions of the paradigms of schooling in a lot of ways, because you're measured from a young age and compared to your peers in a very unnatural environment where everyone is the same age as you, and there's this one grown up in the room who's making the decisions, and everyone faces them, and so I feel like when it comes to like people want to start a business, or it's there's this trepidation to do something that's going to fail, and people will say, well, I have fear of failure, and I have fear of success, and I have fear, and it's like, what I watch our daughter, and she is so willing to, like, I've watched her, like, fall pretty good hard and then get right back up and try it again. Like, it's not like she's scalded and that's okay, that's it. It's like I feel like there's a natural resilience to us, but we can be conditioned away from our nature.
Mm.
And so I like how you folks have brought to the conversation around living in harmony with natural law, because natural law is is we didn't invent natural law. It is part of the way life functions at a very essential level. And we have somehow forgotten that we are part of nature as a species in a lot of ways. So I feel like education as the seed of when it's really about bringing out what is within and honoring that unique soulful purpose that each of us comes here and only we can fulfill, then it's moving away from the paradigm of being compared to everyone else. And it's like, well, if you don't do it, Johnny's going to come and he's going to take your purpose away. It's like, well, no, that's not life. You know, it's not how we really operate, at least for my limited perspective.
Right. It's moving, shifting from competition to cooperation,
Yeah.
to collaboration, to co-creation, instead of corporations.
You're on a roll, Hila.
Slam poet.
Write a poem out of this.
Yeah.
I do write poems. I love poems.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I love to ask the both of you. We love to end our shows with this question of higher vision for our world, which is what we're all about. And the more we can talk about it and imagine it, the more that it can come into manifestation. So what kind of world do you think is truly possible, and do you imagine that we were destined for, if every child on earth was growing up feeling deeply seen, heard, loved, and supported in a true community village setting, free to follow their own innocence and wonder and curiosity? Like, I would love to hear your perceptions of what this could look and feel like from both of you.
Well, I mean, I'd love to just jump in and say, to see a child be a true reflection of all the people that they live around, like it's crazy to think that we grow up on a city block, let's say, and you might know your neighbors from sharing, sugar or salt, but you don't actually have anything to do with them otherwise. You might play with their kids, but what they are good at in life isn't something that really comes close to your experience. And so if you could imagine that a whole city block of people would influence all the children on the block directly, that to me is, even if it's not that specifically, that expanded vision of our children becoming reflections and examples within the community of the community itself is really what I see.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Very interesting. Very interesting perspective,
Thanks for
Michael.
sharing.
Thank you.
I like that because it's emerging from the present moment. It's not like too far out there. I grew up in Israel, and the concept of kibbutz, I didn't grow up in one, but I had relatives, and every time we would go there, to me, it's still a vision of something so beautiful, especially for children. I would love to see humanity going back to way more natural living. So, with more gardens, with more animals and vegetation, I'd love to see our education happening through that process of living more so within harmony with nature. And I'd like to see more celebrations, communal celebrations, and celebrating, um, special times in our life, different passages of initiations that has to do with certain ages and becoming something. I'd love to see sharing food and sharing the abundance that we're living in a way that is ceremonial and also very joyful, with intention, with meaningful um, ways of being creative for the good of all, and using our own humanness, so to speak. So, we all love to move and sing and dance and paint and draw and build, all those skills that we gave our power away to others to do that for us. And I'd love to reclaim that in our community. And as you were saying, look at our children, it comes so natural to them. Let's remember that and just be like that in our communities.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful.
Love
Your
that.
visions really complement one another. I find like I feel like they're it's like the earth and sky coming together. So I can see how you naturally found, partnership in co-creating the New Earth Network. very excited to see how it's continues to expand and yeah, I feel like it was very serendipitous meeting you both and having some shared friendships like our friends Scott and Leora were
Did you meet them again?
how did we meet? I don't know.
We
But
met. It was some of, I think, on a Zoom call of another organization that probably has same values. I don't know if it was Life Force Nation or
that's
uh,
yeah, that's
it's across
possible.
Canada. Yeah, Life
Yeah.
Force
And
Canada.
and you know what, Julie? I think we actually met Michael at when we were on Salt Spring Island because he was actually
Oh,
playing you were playing music. We actually were at the show where Scott and Leora were at that I forget the name of
The
the
cafe.
Macchiata.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were in the same room as you. I don't know if we formally
Oh,
met.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look very familiar now that you put that piece together. It's like sometimes people look different on camera, but I could see it now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
we
such a
we met
small
at least
world.
one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
So yeah, it's we're all interconnected and there's a loving, intelligent mastermind in my very humble and profound opinion that is guiding all of this. And I'm very grateful for both of you. I look forward to continuing to explore how we can collaborate and how we can
Likewise.
support one another in the flourishing of this new era. Um, yeah.
Exciting
Beautiful.
times.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
guys
much.
so much. Yeah, and I look forward to see the light heart vision and your way of bringing this message to communities across Canada, maybe across the world.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
it.
next step. Yeah, and Julia actually just took divine inspiration and started the Lightheart Vision homeschool community on the school platform as well. So
Amazing.
we want to help connect
Yeah.
in similar ways for you. So I know that there's going to be some inspired ways that we continue to weave the vision together. Um,
Yeah.
unless there's anything else you want to share. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I just wanted to say that my inspiration behind I literally started it less than a week ago, and my inspiration was like I know I have a purpose outside of motherhood, and I kept thinking like what am I truly struggling with right now? And that was kind of feeling a little bit isolated as a full-time mom who's intending on homeschooling. And even when I do go out for social events, because I don't just stay home, like we go out all the time, but I'm still desiring that deeper connection when I do go out. And so a part of me is like, if I'm going through this, like, I bet you there's other parents in the city who are probably longing for the same, the same thing. And so I'm like, why don't I just create this? And, this idea of a community where homeschooling parents can connect, but not just like have conversation and meet up at a park for free random play. Like, I'm talking about something deeper that's facilitated and like, showing, parents and children and families, how to have those deeper intentional connections that, are truly sustaining beyond that meetup. And
Mhm.
it really inspired me too, because I realized like, wherever we go, we can, meet up with homeschools around the world. And to me, that's the dream, to be able to have these local pods that are rooted locally, but also have a connection globally. Because when we come together on that level, like, so nothing is impossible.
Very
Yeah.
well said, Julie.
Yay.
Awesome.
Super cool.
Do you folks have anything else to share before we invite Luciana to thank everyone for watching?
Connect with us. You
Yes,
know,
we will. Sorry.
mhm. Yeah, connect with us through our course, through
Mhm.
correspondence. We want to know what you're up to. If you've taken our course, we'd love to know what your process is in emerging that into your community. It's a community effort, so we're in it with you.
And
Beautiful.
if you're
Thank
in
you.
Vancouver, please come to our podlocks and
Mhm.
we can meet in person.
When is the next podluck and where is it?
April 12th in Vancouver, in Kerrisdale. And on our website, we'll put all the information. We usually put the poster invitation and then social media. So it'll be out there April 12th. April,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Wish
I
we
know
could be there.
another a schooler in Vancouver. She has a beautiful community all about expressing yourself authentically. She's actually a celebrity. She's been on a few TV shows and things, and she's a wonderful presence. And I know she has a young child, so definitely send us the information, or you can share it in our community, Hila, and
We have
we'll
most
promote.
of it. I think what I'll do is
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
post it in the description notes of this video so
Yeah.
that when people are watching it, they can just directly click and land wherever they are wanting to go. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share that video. It was such a pleasure to have you guys on the show. We really appreciate you sharing your story and all the beautiful work that you're co-creating together.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
for having us.
and blessings to you both and all who you touch, and to all of our listeners out there as well.
For watching.
Thank watching.
Say have a great day.
Have a good day.
I love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Soon.
Hey, bye. Nacho. Mwah.
Whee!